Oh, there it is.
We're here. Yay. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Naomi Nakashima. I have been a ghostwriter for the past 19 years. I help people write and publish their books. And today I have the privilege and honor to get to interview Charles Edwin. He is the author of Atticus, available now. I have to admit, I haven't finished reading the book yet. I know. Don't yell at me. But so far, it is so good. I love this book. So I was so excited when you signed on to appear on the show with me. Thank you so much. And
thank you for having me. In our pre-show I mentioned that I love watching your TikToks and how much you help people. And so when I saw that you were taking applications, I'm like, oh, I hope that she'll take me on. And then I was so jazzed to find out that I get to come here today. So thank you. And thank you for reading this. It means a lot to hear that you like it. And that's really cool.
And thank you so much. I love hearing, like, there's something really special about hearing the impact you have. Like when someone comes up and they say, you have an impact on me, or you had an impact on someone else, or thank you for being here and causing, whatever this good is, even when it's small, because I feel like that connection is so rare. It's so rare that someone will tell you that. So every time someone tells me that, I just blush.
Yeah. I have a lot to say about that, because I mean, we don't have to start with it, but I do have a lot to say about that kind of thing with the imposter syndrome stuff.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and get started. So I want to start with your story. How did you get into writing and becoming an author?
So it sort of started in middle school. My best friend started making comics, and our friend group loved them. So he would like draw comics and make up little stories with their friends. And I was a little jealous of all the like hype and attention he was getting from our friend group. So I tried to make comics, and it turns out I was real bad at it. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm not ready to give up. So then I was like, I know I have good ideas, even if I can't draw. So I started typing. And I tried typing them up on a computer. And so I started writing short stories, and my friend group loved it. So now our group of friends got two types of media from us. Like they got visual comics, and then they got like short stories that they got to read. And that was what started the whole thing. And because my like middle school friends really liked it, I just kept doing it. And I wrote 56 short stories in the like 7th or 8th grade.
Wow.
And I wrote a lot, but our school had there's like a whole thing with here, because I actually got banned from the library, which is where I was writing. They kicked me out for like using the printers to print stuff, and they're like, this isn't school related, you can't write here anymore. And so like my friends it was kind of crazy. My friends would sneak me into the library, but I was really close to getting detention because I kept getting caught. So on my off time, I would like walk around and try to I'd ask teachers who have open rooms like, hey, can I use a computer in the back of your room, because I want to do some writing, but the library banned me from the library. And but eventually my like English teacher caught wind that I was barred from the library and let me write in her room. And then she's like, well, what are you working on if it's not school stuff? So I showed her some of my stories, and she asked me for all of them. She's like, can you send me every copy that you have? And I was like, yeah, there's like 50 of them though. And so she took them and read them, and she really, really liked them, and actually put me up for like a school award where if you won, you get free breakfast for the rest of the year. That was like the big thing. And so I won for like writing the most short stories as like an 8th grader or whatever it was. And then the ceremony was in the library, and they lifted my ban. So I got to go back to the library, and that like first day I came in, I was like, well.
That's so perfect.
So that's kind of how it all started. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so perfect. Okay, so then what happens next? What brought you to Atticus? What brought you to this book?
That's kind of like a 20-year time jump.
Okay.
It's like a big jump. So sort of what happened is I tried writing in college because I like never gave up, and in high school I finally got like my sketching skills underneath me, so I started doing comics with my friend, and we actually collabed together for a while. But I still wrote the like words for a lot of our stuff, and we even were working on like video games together. But I did a lot of the storyboarding behind it. Eventually, when I got to college, I took some writing classes, and it did not go well. Like I thought I did a good job, and my teachers thought I did a good job, but all my peers really did not like what I made. They didn't like what I put out there. They thought it was confusing. They're like, it's a good thing you're not really a writer because you'd be terrible at it.
Oh no.
I got like just terrible feedback from everyone all the time. And we did a like big project where we put on, you're supposed to make something under a theme of like misfits and
And we
oddballs.
did
So I wrote a
big project.
25-page comic book. I did all the art for it in about 18 hours. And I did like 2 weeks of storyboarding, and I invited my friends and my family, and nobody came. And it was kind of like really like devastating because I was like, if no one's going to come to this, I'm not going to bother. So I just gave up writing for like 10 years. And what eventually brought me to Atticus is I was talking to my uncle about a video game, and I was telling him about this amazing story and these amazing characters about this like 10-year-old little boy who saves the world and has to go through all this traumatic stuff, like losing his mom and losing his brother, and he ends up like saving the whole world. And my aunt was like, wow, that sounds like such a cool story. Is this a book? Can I buy this? And I'm like, oh, it's a video game. And she's like, that's too bad. I don't play video games. And I remember her saying that, and I was thinking, wow, like how many people miss out on such good stories just because they don't play video games or like they don't have a desire to play games. And
Yeah.
this was a couple. So I was like, you know what? I know I can write stuff, and I've got like 30 years of experience playing all these like amazing story games. I think I can write my own story. So I decided to try again. And so I started a whole new series called A Kid in a Slime, and I worked on it for about a year. But then that book is actually bigger than Atticus. And I have like 22 chapters, about 50,000 words into it, but I hit like a wall, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue with my narration style. And my like imposter syndrome really started to like kick in, and I'm like, I can't really do this, blah, 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 blah. And eventually I was like, okay, I want to prove to myself that I can write a story. So I'm going to set out to only write a story that's 20,000 words. It will be a short story, and it's going to be a companion piece to A Kid in the Slime, and it's called Atticus. And so that's kind of where Atticus started. So Atticus is a character in the second book for a series of A Kid in the Slime. And I had wanted to write these like little short stories for these characters to give people more flavor for them for the book series. And so,
I'm sorry. I was waving at someone saying hi. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to distract you.
No, it's okay. So that's kind of where it started. Is I was like, okay, I want to tell the story about this character eventually. Why don't I just start there and see if I can even finish a project in the first place? And so I wrote really inconsistent. It took me about 9 months to write Atticus, but that's kind of how it started. Sorry for such a long answer.
No apologies needed. I love it though. I wrote really inconsistently. It's perfect. And look what you got out of it. I love this cover too. I adore this cover so much.
Thank you. The amazing Elizabeth Garner made this cover for me.
She is good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yes. So just as a reminder for everyone, if you're watching on Amazon, so we are live on YouTube and on Amazon. If you are watching on Amazon, you'll see Atticus available in the carousel below. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll find a link down below in the description. I placed a link there. Captain Radix says, I love Charles's doodles. Don't sell yourself short, my dude. I feel like there's a story there.
Radix, so when I'm not writing, I also live stream on Twitch. And so I actually met Radix by just playing video games over there. And that's usually what I do on Twitch is I like to So I mentioned I like to play these story-driven games. And I know a lot of people would be interested in them, but maybe don't have the skill to play them or the desire. So my Twitch channel is all me just playing story games, just so people can
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, they can just tune back. I'll do all the fighting, and then you can just enjoy all the cutscenes and the cinematics.
So Charles was generous enough to ask me, and he was like, "Hey, do you mind if I give away a free copy?" And I was like, "I don't mind. How are we going to do that?" So if you want a free copy of Atticus, we need to get you over to Amazon, because it's the only way that I can log the comments. So
go to Amazon and comment.
Yeah, I'll need you to come over to Amazon. You can find us at helpmenaomi.com/Amazon Live, and you'll find us right there. And then start commenting. Hi, Rachel. Start commenting on the Amazon Live stream, and at the end of the live stream, we will choose a winner at random from one of the comments to win a book live.
It could be you or you.
That's so great. So, and I really appreciate you doing this for everyone who is watching today, everyone who is viewing. I really appreciate you thinking of others and saying, "Hey, someone might want a free book," because who can say no to a free book, honestly, and especially when it's a good book.
I'm really glad to hear you say that. I'm so like insecure about my writing because of like past stuff. So when people say nice things to me, I'm just like, okay, thanks. I gotta go. Goodbye.
Rebecca says, "I don't need the free copy because I have it, but y'all should read it. See, it's good." So, so right there. So, speaking of the affirmations and everything, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's talk about some of these self-doubts that were coming up while you were taking on Atticus. What was some of the imposter syndrome that was attacking you at the time?
Okay. Writing Atticus was probably, as strange as it is to say, was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. When I sat down to like write the story, I thought about the way storytelling has impacted me and the way it made me feel about certain things. And so I really like drew on the like depths of my own, of like, when a scene similar to this happened, why did I feel this way? What made me feel that way? And how did it happen? And some of the themes in Atticus, they're about tackling like abandonment or negative connotations from family members and friends. And I have a lot of that. So I had to like kind of lean into it and kind of like dig through like things I had put to bed a long time ago. And when you start digging through your own trauma, it you never know what kind of doors are gonna reopen and resurface as you basically, it was kind of like I triggered myself regularly so I could like get in the habit of writing. And to like write, I listened to a lot of music, and so I'd be like, okay, I need to instill this feeling and this thing just so that I could like write it. So a lot of the times and Atticus is like the first half of it is kind of confusing, and it kind of gets into your head a little bit. And I feel like the first half of Atticus can be pretty depressing, just because they're tackling a lot of issues for some of the characters that are present. And because of that, it would put my head into not a very good place, because I was writing from not a very good place. And so a lot of the time, I was really inconsistent with my writing, like I mentioned. And by inconsistent, I mean I would write a chapter and then not write for a month, or I'd write 2 chapters and then not write for 2 months. And Atticus was a pantser project, so I didn't plan it out like I do most of my stuff. So I'd have to like reread it constantly.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. I don't recommend pantsing unless you're really good at it. So I'm really bad at it. And like, it was so bad that like when I started editing it, I changed between third person 7 different times in the book because I wasn't consistent with writing. And so as you know, as I'm going through it and I'm trying to like write it, I'm editing my own stuff, and I'm just like, why would I write this? How could I forget this word? Like how ridiculous do you have to be to forget this word? Or like I don't even like I sometimes I would try to read my description, or like I had a beta reader, like I had wonderful betas, and they would just leave comments like being like, I don't understand what this means. And I'd be like, oh no, I can't describe anything. And I have a spiraling issue where like listening to like therapists talk about trauma and like some of the terminology that goes with this, and I have a real bad like cycling thought process. And so when I tumble, I start tumbling pretty hard.
Yeah.
And so there was many times where I was going through Atticus and I was just fighting myself to like stay afloat, whether it was like digging into the past, or it was just beating myself up being like, wow, you spelt a word wrong, way to be the worst writer ever.
Oh no.
And so like that kind of stuff happened all the time, and it got real bad the closer I got to the end.
I'll tell you, there's one phrase in here that hit me right in the heart, like right in the heart. So when I asked you, like, hey, because as everyone knows, I like to answer questions. I like to provide help. This is what I like to do. And so when I started forming these live streams on Amazon and YouTube, I wanted it to be in a way that provided help for other authors. I wanted to, connect authors to readers, but also provide help for other authors. And so I said, hey, what do you want to talk about? And he said, imposter syndrome. And I was like, good. Because there is, all right, this is going to be like a mild spoiler for some of you. Okay. I'm just going to say it right now. But page 48, do you know what I'm about to show?
Nope. I don't even know what's in my own book.
That's okay. This phrasing, let's see if I can get the right page in front of the camera. Right here. I am awesome with a big old strikeout. That hit right in the heart. Right in the heart. I was like, oh my God. Because there have been so many times that I have said something similar and then crossed it out, even verbally. And then like, no, I take it back, or I'm just kidding, or something. Like that imposter syndrome comes out. Like, who are you to decide that you're awesome? And it comes out. And so to see it in writing, I was like, wow.
I'm really excited to hear you say that. Sometimes I feel like I had an editor edit this, and she was amazing. And, I had amazing beta readers. But a lot of people were giving me classical feedback for like classical writing. And I don't necessarily consider myself a classical writer. And it kind of that butted heads with me too, where my imposter syndrome's like, listen, people who are way smarter than you are telling you that you shouldn't probably do it this way, so you shouldn't do it. But then I'm like, bro, this is my vision though. Like, this is my voice and my story. Like, which one matters more? And it's like, it kind of like clashed together. And so ultimately, like, I kind of like split it in half, and I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, but I'll also take that advice this time, and I'm going to see how people feel about it. And then with the next project, I'll just be more free with myself.
Well, just so you know, when it comes to classical writing rules and literary rules and voice should always trump for so many reasons, not the least of which is that's what sets you apart from everyone else who's writing in the same genre. So for everyone watching, whether you're on Amazon or YouTube, if you are going through this same dilemma of people aren't necessarily liking what you're writing because they're comparing it to the classics, whatever that means, or they're comparing it to literary rules, or they're saying, well, you use a lot of, I had someone yell at me once for sentence fragments. I like sentence fragments. They add personality. But yeah, your voice. And this was definitely a powerful way with that strikeout. It was a powerful way of putting your voice in there without beating me over the head with it. So I
love to hear that. One of the things that got edited out of my book a lot is that one of the characters, you may not have met them yet, depending how far you are, but one of the characters is always like, oh, come on, man. And I really did put in like 8-letter A's for man, or like I used the Teldale to show elongation. And so like in one phase there was like 10 A's to show the elongation of him speaking, because I was trying to attention to voice for the characters, because there's so many that I wanted them to feel unique. So when this guy comes in and he's always like, oh, like, you know exactly who's talking. But one of my betas or editors are like, you can't put in 10-letter A's consecutively. So I was like, okay, fine. So I like cut it out and I used the Teldale. And there's no like true use for a Teldale that I found out, and that's that like squiggly line. And I've always used it to show elongation in a word. But like I looked it up online being like, is anybody using this for this? What's it actually for? And I couldn't really find a use for it. So I'm just like, well, fine, I'm just gonna yoink that. That's what it's gonna be. But then it got edited out of my book. Like people are like, no, don't use this. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense. And
well, I think you did a great job of expressing voice.
Thank you.
So your voice and character distinct voices. I think you did a great job. Jessica Cage says she's a total pantser too. I can't talk. My lips are glitching, I guess. I know I used to be a pantser, and I agree with you. I do not recommend pantsing unless you're good at it.
If you can do it, Jessica, you're a legend, and I admire you.
Yeah, because when I was pantsing, I was not really. I enjoyed the process, but I was not really making any progress. Versus when I started planning things out more, I could see my progress. So if you're good at it, whoo, yes. But if you're not, it's a struggle.
Every time I'd sit down and I would be like, wait, what's happening in this?
Dale says hi. Radix says hi. Radix is on Amazon now. I hit a lot of dead ends when I try to be creative, chalk it up to lack of experience, guidance, and wind up abandoning projects often. So yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because imposter syndrome can definitely lead to a lot of dead ends in a lot of projects. So we're going to get to that. And then Alexa just tried to work when you said, I like sentence fragments. Okay. When I plan, I get lost in the sauce and end up with no book. And Jessica Cage, it can definitely be hard to hype yourself up and not feel like a fraud. Yeah. And I think some of that comes from, we can talk about this for a little bit too, but some of that comes from how often we're told we should be humble, which looking back, like, okay, I'm 45 now. And I did not catch on to this until I was in my 40s already. I was like 42, 43 when I thought, well, that's garbage advice. Like, who thought that up? We have a society where no one feels good about themselves, and we're telling them to feel even less than that. Like,
yeah,
what?
It is kind of crazy how that is the case. Like, one of the things that have made me feel like really cool about being an author lately is just how supportive my like Instagram and my TikTok communities are. Like I remember I made a story after the book came out, and then people had been sending me messages being like, hey, there's typos in the final print of your book. And I'm like, awesome, real excited about that. but
I should not be laughing about that, because I would be like,
I can laugh about it now because I feel better about it, because I've like worked through it. But I was just, and the thing that kind of like, here, this is a tip I want to throw out there. If you're going to tell an author there's a bunch of typos in their book, maybe just like draft up a Word document and like be like, there's a typo here, there's a typo, and just submit it all at once, because then the author can feel bad just one time instead of 70 times.
There's a typo here, and there's a typo here, and there's a typo here. It's not helpful anymore at that point. I'm just saying. They think they're being helpful. So
anytime somebody would say it to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for submitting this to me. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. But I was also like, nice, I'm a failure. Nice, way to mess up. Good job.
And of course, you know now that you are not a failure.
That's right. I'm not a failure.
You are not a failure.
I'm not, and stuff happens, and that was kind of the point I was trying to get to, is that like my communities are so nice. So I post a lot on my Instagram and I update my stories quite a bit. And so I posted saying like, you know, tons of people sent me this and I really appreciate sending them to me, but I feel so bad that there's typos in here. I feel like I'm a terrible author because this happened. And it's like, oh, look, here's evidence that I'm an indie author, and I'm adding to the like bad name of indie authors because because it came out like this. And then I ended up being like, I have to just remind myself that like it's okay to feel like this, but that's not reality. Like that might be how I feel, but I'm still valid. I'm still a writer. I'm still an author. And thankfully, something that was really cool is people took time out of their day to send me DMs, and they responded to my story being like, hey, it's okay. You know, there's plenty of like known authors who have typos in their books. Like don't beat yourself up over it. Happens. And I even had somebody be like, I passed and I do this, and we had 20 people edit this, and we still all missed this one thing.
Mm-hmm. It's so amazing to me how the reputation of self-published authors hangs on those typos, and yet I will see, and I've been on editing teams where I know I was the third editor on that book for a traditionally published book, going through traditional publishing, hired by the agent. I was the third one, and proofreaders came after me, and it still had a typo in the published version. Like sometimes, like those are the typos you just gotta like salute, because they are clinging to dear life, you know.
One person was really nice, and one of her things was like, she said, you know, there are people out there now who hunt for first editions because they're just full of typos. So someday people are going to hunt for your first edition books because they want the ones that have all the mistakes in it.
Yeah. You know, and I used to play Magic the Gathering a lot, and we loved the misprint cards. Jessica Cage did a TikTok sometime last year. I don't remember how long ago it was. And I was so excited about this too. Let me see. She got her box of books, and there was like 100 pages in the back that were just blank pages, and I was like, I want that book. She was like, I was like, mine.
What are these 100 pages for? Like, am I supposed to continue the story and resubmit the book, or?
Yeah. So all right, so you're dealing with imposter syndrome. You're working on Atticus. What do you think helped you? I'm sure there were a lot of different things that helped you, but what do you think helped you the most to overcoming those self-doubts and finally getting the book done and out?
So I have to give myself a little bit of kudos because I think it will strength to realize when you're slipping, and it takes more strength when you actually reach out to people during those times. So I mentioned Elizabeth Garner at the start of this live stream. She's the one who did the cover for my book. She was the first person I met in like book talk land, and really like the first friend I made. She was one of the first people to actually like respond to me when I would comment on videos, and followed me back and commented on my stuff. And then, you know, before you knew it, we were talking on Instagram and we were just talking books. And she would always let me like pitch her ideas, or if I was having a bad day, I'd be like, hey, I'm really struggling with like feeling like an author today because I just feel like I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, like I shouldn't even bother doing this. And you know, she would let me DM her any time of the day, and it sort of became like she was working on her books and covers and stuff at the same time I was like working on my things. So it was sort of like we became like digital desk mates. And we always joked being like, hey, what's up, writing buddy? What's up, desk friend? And, you know, it's just a digital friend across the screen. But there were plenty of times where I would reach out and, you know, she just gave me a space to like voice my problems, and then always reminded me that like, hey, that's not true. Like, it's okay to feel like validating the way I feel, but then reminding me that, you know, yes, it's okay to feel that way, but no, that's not, it doesn't define who you are. And while I say that, that probably happened like 40 times. And
You
so
know,
like
oh,
it was
sorry. Go ahead.
always great that I could just like, and she was always like, you can DM me any like time of day or night, it doesn't matter, I might not be able to respond, but like you can always just word vomit in our DMs and I'll get back to you in the morning. And I did that a bunch of times.
You're like,
And so it was really, I think the other thing that sort of helped me is before I had my author website, I had a Patreon where I'm really transparent in my projects and the way I'm feeling and stuff like that, because I think it's extremely important that we talk about trauma and mental health as often as we can so that it becomes normalized, because it's still not normalized to do. So I would make Patreon posts just being like, here's why I feel like a failure. Here's why I feel like I'm not really an author. Here's why I, whatever. And I would put those out there, and even just typing it and walking away felt like something. So I think those two things were like really, really big.
Having any kind of support, whether it be supportive family, supportive community, other writers, critique partners, any or all of the above can make such a huge difference when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome. And that's why it's one of the first things that I tell people: get into a hype group or create one if you can't find one. Like, find that person or group of persons who will talk about how amazing and great and wonderful and unique that you are, because you are. And your story is a good one. I have not yet come across a bad story. I've come across bad writing. Don't get me wrong. I've come across bad editing. And I used to be kind of a snob about stories until Sharknado had 5 movies out. And I was like, there's no such thing as a bad story if Sharknado had 5 stories out. So that's anyway. So yeah, but having that support, someone to remind you of these things, because you're gonna have to wait, buddy.
Okay, I promise.
Okay, go on. I forgot what I was saying. Having the support can really make a difference when you are fighting something like imposter syndrome. That's what I was going to say, because you touched on it a little bit earlier too, is you had to fight it with facts, right? This is one of the only times, by the way, that you'll ever hear me say facts over feelings. You had to like remind yourself, I'm still an author. At the end of the day, I feel bad about the typo. I feel bad about the imperfection, but I'm still an author. I'm still a writer. My story is still out there. So you fought it with facts. And that's number 2 on my list. What are the facts? Like, remove the emotions. What is the fact of it? And you have a really good book out of it. So Rebecca says perfection is overrated. I see typos in books all the time, even in published books. We're all human. I'm presuming she means traditionally published books, but yeah. Published textbooks. Sorry. There's a time and a place for being humble and a time and a place for taking charge and initiative. Many forget about the second part. That is so true too. And it's really hard to be an effective leader if you're focused on not looking like a leader or trying to be humble. So also very, very true.
There's like 2 powerful messages I always think about anytime now that I've come out of Atticus, I feel like I'm mentally stronger than I was when I was writing it. But mental health and imposter syndrome is a hill. So like some days you're going to be climbing and other days you're going to be slipping fast.
I'm so glad you said that. Did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. We have lag too. So it's like sometimes it's hard to know if someone's just breathing or if they're done.
I am so glad that you said that, though, because writing a book, the process of writing a book changes you. The amount of self-reflection, you are never the same person. It's not to say, that the person beforehand was bad or anything like that, but you know yourself better. You're able to recognize your strengths better. You're able to use them, and because you use them already to write the book, you're able to like apply them to other areas of your life more easily, I find. So I'm really glad that you said that you grew through it.
Well, and it's like I wrote Atticus because some people are like, why did you write this? And I'm like, well, I really just wrote it to prove to myself I could even do it in the first place. Like that's like 99% of why I wrote this. And like there are some like really cool lessons in here if you can pay attention to the text and like maybe even like read some of the imagery. And because like I'm getting a little off topic, but I'm real big into like hidden meanings or like subtle nuances. So like this cover, you mentioned it's really cool, but by the time you get to the end of the book, the cover should have significance to you, front and back. And like I try to like
cooler now.
I try to like play with those kind of things and stuff too. So
I love it.
Now that I've written a book, when I was editing it the first time, I've mentioned this before, but I was like, here's a bunch of traditional advice I'm getting from professionals and people who are in the industry, and then I just want to make art. And now that I've come out to the other side, I'm like, okay, I wrote a book. I've gotten a lot of great feedback from people. People seem to genuinely like it, despite the fact that there's typos in here. I feel like I have my feet under me now, and I can just be an artist. So like even when I work on the next book, I'm going to really just focus on my own voice and what I want to basically paint into my project. And despite hiring like editors and having beta readers who will go through it and offer me their suggestions, ultimately I can just go, thanks, not using that. And I'm just going to stick with my voice. And I feel a lot more confident making those choices going forward.
That's awesome. I got one more question for Charles, and then we are also, of course, because why wouldn't I? We are also doing a Q&A for those of you, whether you are on Amazon or YouTube. So if you have any questions regarding imposter syndrome or self-doubt or how to overcome those and write your book, please feel free to start dropping those questions. Or if you have a question about Atticus itself, nothing that'll lead to spoilers, but you have the author right here who is happy to answer anything spoiler free that he can regarding the book. So feel free to start dropping your questions. And of course, if you're dropping questions on Amazon, every time you leave a comment, you are entering to win a free copy of Atticus. So
which I will sign and personalize and mail to you. So it's legit
signed copy.
It's legit free. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, you won if you pay for shipping. Nah, bro, it's all for free.
Thank goodness, because I hate those free shipping funnels. Like, Anyway, so brand new author. Let's say, or maybe not even a brand new author, but as of yet unpublished author is asking you about imposter syndrome and how to overcome imposter syndrome. What is your biggest tip that you would want to let them know?
Okay, I have 3 or 4 things that I want to say about that. These are the like, so I'd be like, I got like 3 or 4 tips for you straight away. Here's what they are.
Yeah, I can never stick to one either. So. Fair.
My first tip is get a friend, because there's going to be dark days and you are your worst enemy. You always are going to get in your own way. And even if you win today, you might not win out against yourself tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. So you need to have a friend you can lean on who will advocate for you when you won't advocate for yourself. That's like my number one. Get a friend. Get a friend. Hopefully, like preferably a writing friend, because at least they understand the journey a whole lot better. But that is like the most important, is you need. Sorry, I just need get a friend.
Get a friend. I love it. And it's so important though too. It's so important. We talked about community before, having that friend, having that support. It really is. And one of the things that I hear people say all the time, and I'm like, stop saying that, is writing is so much fun. And if you don't enjoy it, you shouldn't do it. And I'm like, oh no, because there's gonna be days that you hate it. Like you're gonna not like anything about it. And it's gonna question your entire identity as an author. And
yeah, I 100% agree with you.
yeah, when people start saying, "Oh, you know, if you love it," I'm like, no, there's so many people must have quit already. Simply
Writing
because
this book legit made me cry probably like 3 dozen times.
whoa.
Like, and like there were like, because it's like when you read Atticus, there's certain parts of it that's like, is this fun to read right now? No, because we're talking about some pretty not fun things. But then like, and like, was it fun to write them? Not really. but they're important. And
They are important.
so you can't always like, I mean, I'm an accountant. I love my job. Do I love every aspect of my job? No. But like I always think that kind of language that you just mentioned, you're just setting yourself up to fail, because there's going to be a day where you hate it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that was number 1 of 3 or 4.
Okay, so what was the question again? What advice I would give to
It
people?
was what is your biggest advice that you would give to someone unpublished but asking you about imposter syndrome?
Okay, the second one, this is a phrase I read in a book called The Story of With. And this phrase was so amazing. It was like, just because you make something and somebody doesn't like it doesn't mean what you made is invalid. It just means it wasn't for that person. You should try to make for yourself, from yourself, and then that's good enough. It doesn't matter if people don't like it. And the analogy they used in that book as well was like, if you own a pizza shop and somebody comes in and asks for a sandwich, what are you going to do? And the character's like, well, maybe I could add sandwiches. And they're like, no, you're a pizza shop, not a sandwich shop. If they want sandwiches, they can go somewhere else. Your pizzas are still valid just because they didn't want to.
Your pizzas are still valid, 100%.
I'm like reinterpreting and like rephrasing it, but that's pretty much what it meant.
That's and I love that. I'm gonna have to go find the story of With then, but I really love that, and it calls back to something else that I like to say to people all the time: is your book does not have to be popular to be good. A lot of times, popularity has more to do with connections and marketing than it does about the quality of the book.
Yeah.
And yeah, if someone doesn't like it, that it's still a valid book. It's still a good book. You just didn't give it to the right person yet. That's all there is to it. So yeah, I love it. And
then I think my third and maybe final piece is that it's okay to walk away from your work. Like the hardest thing about writing is that it's very personal, and it's very personal for yourself, because like you constantly have to face yourself on the page. So not only do you have to go digging into your own brain and your own soul for like the creativity and inspiration to write, when you come back to edit, you have to look at what you did and then fix it or change it, and then like get to a place where you're happy with it. And that's for me, it was a very difficult and trying process of constantly facing, like I faced myself to put myself on the page, and then I'm facing myself on the page every time I sit down to edit. And that's why my writing was really inconsistent, is because I would get too emotionally drained, and it was so difficult for me I didn't have a lot of stamina to withstand that for a long period of times. And that kind of led to why it took me so long to write my book in the first place. But I took breaks to step away from the work. I listened to different music. I changed my headspace, because like I mentioned in the beginning, I like inject emotions into myself. So I'm like kind of injecting some of these really dark days and really troubling emotions, so I have the like mind I need to write the scenes that I'm trying to write. But then like when the scene are done, I still have all those feelings. I don't just like turn off. So there are times where I'd have to be like, okay, I don't have the mental fortitude to be depressed all day again. So today is just eating pizza and watching anime, or today I'm just gonna play video games.
I love it so much. For me, it was okay. Today I am going to eat popcorn, pizza, and just watch Star Wars. Woo. And like that is just what I'm doing, and it puts me in my happy place when I'm done being in whatever not so happy place I had to put myself into writing a book, writing a story, whatever. And there have been times when I had to, like you said, inject those emotions, usually through like listening to music. Like, okay, I got to write a fight scene. So I have to like get into this, angry, dark, villainous mode to exactly. Yes, exactly. And that can be kind of just manually switching your emotions like that can be exhausting.
Yeah.
Learning how to do it can be.
I want to pause you for a second because I see Damien's question, which we'll get to, Damien. But you said, how do you deal with that feeling? Can you just tell me what feeling you're talking about? So when we get to the question, I know what we're talking about, because I'm going to forget by the time we get there.
Good call. Good call. All right. There we go. All right. So good call. We do need to start it's probably a good idea to start taking on some of these questions, because I see that a few of them have actually started coming up. So Damien. Hi, Damien. Now that Atticus is out, do you have any regrets or wish you had about the book or publishing process? And if so, how do you deal with that feeling?
I actually have a lot of opinions about Atticus now that it's done. So I'll try to do this in order. I'm pretty sure I have ADHD and I like forget where I'm going a lot of the time. So please feel free to bring me back to the road. So now that Atticus is out, do you have any regrets and wish you had about the book or publishing process? I'm going to just kind of rapid fire these. And if you want me to expand, I will expand. One of the first things I wish I'd done is just stuck with my gut on my voice. So in some of the book, I believe I left it all caps, but I used to have all caps, all bold. And I kind of regret taking that out because I felt it left such a good voice, and it was supposed to be so jarring. And like whenever that text came up, you knew exactly who was talking. And the feedback I got was, oh, it's too abrasive. And I'm like, that's the point.
Like, it's supposed to be.
And so now that I feel comfortable in my own skin, I just left because I was playing with the words and I was playing with the formatting I had available. And I did a lot of things on purpose because I wanted there to be specific voice for these characters when they spoke, especially some of the important ones. And so I wish I would have just had more like confidence in myself to go, thanks for the feedback, but I'm not going to follow it. The second thing is I set a release date before I had printed it, because I didn't understand how Amazon publishing works. So I'm like, the book's going to come out this day. And then I'm like, well, except I'm going to delay it and delay it and delay it. And so originally I wanted the book to be out in like September or October, but it didn't come out till December 6th because I had to keep pushing it back, whether it was my editor wasn't available or my editor took longer than I thought they were going to take, or there were so many corrections I had to make. And then I didn't realize on Amazon, you have to publish a book and then they'll send it to you. So there's kind of a secret thing. People who are publishing on Amazon, you have to literally publish this book first before they'll ship it to you. So theoretically, someone could order your book while you're still working on editing.
Yeah.
And so if I had known all those things in the beginning, I would have I really would have changed certain things. And I'm the kind of person where if I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it. And if I don't do it, that mental health is going to tank. And I'm going to be so upset with myself because I'm going to be like, wow, nice job. You failed. You didn't do the thing you said you were going to do. Now you're a big liar. Congrats.
Oh, no.
So with that is one of the hugest things going forward, is that with my next book, I'm not even announcing a release date until I've printed this, physically read through it, made sure I've done a physical read and edit of the book, and then I'm gonna push the release date out just in case. That way I can order copies ahead of time. I can get them, because that was one of the other things that kind of was unfortunate, is my book released December 6th. And I didn't get it to my local bookstores till a week later because I didn't have the copies yet. So in the future, that's going to be a big thing. So those are my two biggest. And I'm going to hire 2 or 3 editors instead of just 1. So hopefully I miss less typos.
Hopefully. I mean, not that they're bad. I'm telling you, like sometimes, sometimes you can read a book and a typo will like yank you right out of the story in a bad way, in a bad, not like a breaking the fourth wall kind of way, but just like, ugh, your typos are not that bad.
Okay.
They're not a yank me out of the story bad.
There's one in there that my wife pointed out where just like all of a sudden at the end of a sentence, the word "the" is there. And I was like, I don't even know how that happened.
But they're not so bad that they yank me out of the story in a really bad way. They're there. They're noticeable. You can still fix them.
I plan to. I don't have an ETA because the Elizabeth also formatted my book for me. But I kept going back being like, hey, I need you to unbold this. Hey, I need you to change this formatting. And she was doing it for free. And I mean, I, of course, tipped her because I was like, thank you for your time. Your skills deserve to be paid. But I felt bad because I had to keep like coming back with more things for like a free service. And
speaking of the all at once thing that we mentioned earlier, right? That's okay. I'm sure she didn't mind if she did. I mean, Em is she's really great, and if y'all don't know Em, she's in Writer Talk. She's really active there, and she's really great. She's very compassionate, and she's not afraid to tell you when you're overstepping. Like, yeah. Like she has her boundaries. So I'm sure if she minded, she would have said something.
I'm so proud of her. She like when I first started talking to her, her first book wasn't even out yet. And in the time of us like meeting and being friends, she's released her second book. Her third book is well into like production and everything. And I'm just like, dang.
Look at her go.
Look at you go, girl.
It's so amazing. Jessica Cage says, I didn't realize how much I'd be working through my own issues while writing fantasy creatures. Like this dragon has a lot in common with my younger self. Right?
So that's kind of not that that's a question, but people always ask me like who the characters in the story are based off of. And I'm like, I can't tell you till you finish the book. But what I will say is that like all these characters are just based off of like different ways I felt about myself as I've grown from a child to an adult. Even like some of the female characters, I just leaned into like, I don't like using this term, but like my own femininity. But like really, it's just like I looked at something and applied empathy, and then I gave it to this character.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the way that you said that. I'm glad that you didn't say something like girly but strong, because I hate that phrase.
That's a ridiculous sentence. I get real passionate about this topic.
I do too. Like, don't come to me and be like, she's in touch with her feminine side, but she's still strong. Shut up. Like, you could be both.
So she's a person?
Yeah. Feminine can be strong. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Maybe
oh my gosh.
Didn't start saying it was anyway.
For my second book, I was really concerned. Because I listened to a lot of my female peers tell stories and talk about their experiences with stuff. And I heard someone mention, oh, I like this, but so many men just write women into this like woman in a refrigerator trope. So I like DM'd them and I'm like, can I have you screen all my characters for my next book? Because like, I definitely don't want to do this. And so they're like, yeah, go ahead. So I sent them like humongo like story arcs and like etc. And they finally came back and were like, all these characters sound amazing and that they're written just like people. You didn't put anyone in a refrigerator. And I'm like, let's go. Yes. I know what I'm doing.
Jessica Cage asks, what is your favorite affirmation for imposter syndrome?
I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily have imposter or if I have affirmations for imposter syndrome. The biggest thing I remind myself is that quote from the story of Width, which is if I create something and it's what I wanted to make in the first place, that's good enough. Just because somebody doesn't like what I wrote doesn't mean that it's bad, doesn't mean that it's invalid. It just means it wasn't for them. And I thankfully haven't got any like negative comments or feedback from people about my book. But when I was writing A Kid in the Slime, I had somebody come in and read my prologue And why is this character doing this? Are they stupid? This is so dumb. Like blah, 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 blah. And so I had a back and forth with them. And I actually went and looked at their profile, and they are notorious for leaving angry comments on people's stuff. But I had a back and forth with them like live in my chat section. And it eventually got to the point where I just calmly kept replying to his questions. And they finally was like, oh, well, that's cool. That's not really a story that I like, but thanks for clearing that up for me. And then they just left and did not review bomb me. And so I was like, yes.
That's a win.
So I would say that's probably like my best affirmation, is just remembering that just because somebody might not like what I do doesn't mean that it's bad.
I like that. And then mine is usually, I don't know if I have a favorite, but the ones that I repeat to myself, I think everyone here already kind of knows what they are, but one is that your book does not have to be popular to be good. And another one that I say a lot, that you actually even said earlier tonight, is I'm still an author. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, no matter who said what, no matter what, I'm still an author. I'm still a published author at that. Like, I'm still an author. Yeah. And to me, that's what matters, is, am I making the impact that I set out to do in the first place? And the answer is yes, because I'm still an author. So
yeah. And one more thing I want to add to, Jessica, is this one just popped in my head, because this is something I do like to think about when I'm kind of down. It's a quote from Izuku Midoriya from My Hero Academia. But in the early parts of that show, he's talking about how he's so far behind his peers and everyone else is so far ahead of him. But he's not going to think about that, because he's going to focus on what he can do right now. And that's this. And when I was about to release Atticus, I had a lot of people telling me that I should just read it again. Maybe I should delay it and improve my writing some more. But I was like, no, I could delay this forever and always improve my writing and never release it. This is the best that I got right now. And that's good enough.
Nice. Yes. It's the best I have right now. Boom. I wish I had, like, sound effects and like applause and,
good job, me. You did it. You're amazing.
Because it's so true. And I'm so glad that you said it just like that. Damien, I think I heard you mention you are an accountant as a day job. So I would assume you are a good balance of left and right brained. Do you think imposter syndrome plagues more of the right brain creative side versus the left brain logic side, or do you think it's even? I have thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours first.
So I don't know enough about left brain, right brains to really be able to talk about that extensively. What I will say, though, is I don't think it's a right brain, left brain thing. I think we're talking about the difference between neurotypicals and neurodivergent people. Because, like, I have no idea if I'm a right brainer or a left brainer. Like, yes, I'm an accountant, but like, no one cares I have an accounting degree. People just care that I can write and read formulas in Excel. And that's like how I get my job 99% of the time. So I don't know if I'm a right brainer or a left brainer, but I'm definitely a neurodivergent person. And I've like talked to people who are neurotypical about imposter syndrome and like these like overwhelming feelings of like falling into like despair and spiraling and having to really like some days just like drag yourself back out of the abyss. And then I talked to a neurotypical and they're like, wow, that's strange. I don't have any idea what that feels like. And I'm like, I'm real happy for you, dude. I'm real glad I got to deal with any of that.
Yay. Thanks. Here's your medal. As adult diagnosed ADHD, that has been a struggle for me, because growing up, now again, 45. So growing up, as you know, in the 70s and 80s, ADHD was not a recognized thing at the time. And so I was just labeled as a dingbat, basically. I was scatterbrained. And I still remember in 6th grade, I was also the little nerd who got bullied in these schools. So I was running down the hallway because in 6th grade, I was taking my English and math classes in with the 9th graders. So they would come and they would pull me out of my class in the 6th grade, and I would grab all my books. I had this whole, pile of books, and then I would dart down the halls to get to the 9th grade classes to take my classes. And one day, about halfway across the school, I dropped all my books, and the binder went everywhere, and none of the papers were in the binder, so papers were everywhere. And now, because of the way it was set up, I had to do attendance in the 6th grade and then leave and go. So no one else was in the hallway. It was just me. And this teacher came out because all the noise. She's like, Naomi, I don't understand why you're such a dingbat. If you don't start getting your life together, if you don't start getting more organized, you're not going to make it anywhere. Like, what are you going to do? And so I'm like, I'm crying and I'm putting all my stuff up and I'm getting and I'm going. And that is the voice that has been in my head for years, decades, is I'm such a dingbat if I don't organize. So that was its own form of imposter syndrome, and probably a large part of why I'm like, I need 15 spreadsheets. I have lists and all
people don't
stuff.
think about like how long lasting the words that they use are. I love that TikTok audio that's like, well, maybe it was traumatic for me, Kevin, and it was a Tuesday for you.
Right, exactly. So now, as far as right brain, left brain, I am left brain. So the for the most part, right brain runs your creativity. It's your artistic flow. It's your ability to, say, match up colors, for example. It's what we rely on for things like when speaking poetry, for example. Does the melody of the words, is it pleasing to the ears? Versus the left brain, which is the more analytical side, the more logical side, which is, does the verse make sense? Type of thing. And so they work together most of the time.
I appreciate the education, because I genuinely did not know the difference.
They do, for most people, work together. But you are soaking wet. You really hurt? You're soaking wet too. What were you? All right. What did you, like, dive into the toilet? Okay. Can you go sit and eat? I'm sorry.
No, I got kids. I'm not even worried about it.
He smells like soap and air freshener. Like, go that way.
Refreshing?
So I just wash my head and just.
Okay, honey, please. All right, baby.
It is some soap on you.
Okay, baby. Go that way. Go eat.
And I wash my face.
Do you want ice cream? Go eat, and then you can have ice cream later. Anyway, so and most people have, both sides work together. But most people also rely more heavily on one. And so, like, for example, if you're listening to music and you can get moved by the sway of the melody, regardless of what the words say, you're probably more right-brained. I almost said blamed. Versus if you are really focused in on what the words say and the words are tugging at your heart in one way or the other, despite what the melody is doing, you're probably more left-brained. I am more left-brained.
Can you be both things? I feel like I'm both of those things.
Yeah, there are some people who work it in balance. And I think I'm trying to, if that makes sense. I'm also INTJ. So I am introverted. I'm a Vulcan. I'm introverted, intuition, thought, and judgment. And like, I don't rely on emotions for anything. Even when my clients come to me for coaching, I'm like, what are your goals? And they're like, but is this good? And I'm like, but does it serve your goal? Like, I'm all about the statistics and the goals first, and like whether or not you feel good later.
Yeah. I feel like I can live in both those camps, because like I can listen to music or even just remember something, and like if it made me cry, boom, I'm right back into emotions. But then I can, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm just super I feel like I'm a hyper empath.
You probably are judging just on the character development here and the voices. I think that's probably accurate.
I'm so excited to see what you think by the end of it. When I wrote this book, because it's not very long, it's like 180 pages or something, but I wrote it with if you read it one time, you have experience A, which means you've experienced everything organically and raw for the first time, and you're just gonna have to like you're in it. But if you read it a second time, you're gonna go, that was that guy. What? That's what's going on right now. And it's like there's two
I love
experiences
books
in
like that. I am so excited to finish this book and then start it over again. Naomi, we are the same Myers-Briggs. Yes, Damien. So to answer your question, because I kind of went on a tangent, didn't I? So to answer your question, does imposter syndrome affect left or right brain more? Coming from me, and other people probably have a different answer for this, but coming from me, here's what I think of. I think it affects both sides of the brain, but I think it does so in a different way. So what I mean by that is, like, there are a lot of times when, as a left-brained Vulcan, I get imposter syndrome a lot about, am I putting in enough emotion? Am I writing anger well enough? Are people going to be able to pick up on this? Because I am not even really good at picking up on emotion in people when they say, you know, like, I try to be as compassionate as I can. And when someone tells me, hey, that hurts, I try to recognize that hurt. But I don't often recognize it, like, if someone doesn't tell me what it is. Like, I can't tell by what they're doing, whether or not they're hurt. And so I immediately either assume they're hurt, because everyone in my past who has done, you know, whatever. For example, like, if you stop talking to me, I'll think that I did something that either hurt you or pissed you off. Right? Could just be that you're busy.
But I assume everyone hates me and doesn't want to talk to me.
Yeah, exactly. So that comes out of my writing a lot. So I'll get that I'm not creative enough. I'm not emotional enough. I'm not empathic enough to write these characters and give them the emotional depth that they need. But then my left brain will start beating me up for saying those things in my right brain. And like, what are you doing? You went to school for this. You've been doing this for years. Are you seriously? You can't figure out how to keep your own thoughts in check yet? Like, so
that's tough. Inner warring with yourself like that.
I know. So the imposter syndrome comes at me on both sides, just in different ways. And once you recognize how it's coming at you, it is much easier to fight off. So this is one of the reasons why I love talking about imposter syndrome so much, is I fought through it. And don't get me wrong, I don't want anyone to be like, you can't, you know, you're giving bad advice here. When I say I fought through it, I mean that I developed the skills to be able to pull myself back out of it. It still comes up from time to time. I don't know if we as writers can ever really get over it for good. I just think it takes on new doubts. You know?
I always try to think about it like, I don't know how far in the book you are, and I don't want to give you any spoilers. That's been the hardest part about talking about my book, is that some people finished it and they want to talk about things later in the book. And I'm like, well, I can't do that because there's people here who haven't. So like, I have like a very firm, like, we cannot talk past chapter 7.
Oh, well, I am past chapter 7, but I also feel like I can't tell you. Well, I mean, I'm halfway through chapter 10, but I also
okay.
Like earlier chapter. Though, you were like, I don't remember what's on my book, so I don't know if you know what happens.
I know what chapter 10 is because it's a big chapter. I know. Okay. I specifically know what chapter 7 is, what chapter 10 is, what 11 through 15 are, and then after. It's just the front half of my book where I'm like, huh? What is going on in the first part of this book again?
Perfect. Okay. So now you know where I'm at then.
Yeah. So what I'll say is, for you, the character who speaks in all caps is basically like a good representation of imposter syndrome, I feel like, because it doesn't matter. Like, even when you come to the other side and you're like, yes, in your dumb face, I did it. I'm the best. I'm amazing. Right. Well, the next, like in a week or two or the next day, your imposter syndrome is going to be like, sup, bro? I got some new gear and leveled up too. Tell you this time. Like, imposter syndrome is a perpetual inner war that I don't think I'll ever be done fighting my imposter syndrome. It's going to be there forever. But I have a lot of tools to help me do that. And I have friends that I can lean on who will advocate for me and help me for the days where I can't fight myself.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so just equipping yourself with just some of those tools is the best way. And I mentioned this in the beginning that I gave myself kudos for this. If you can recognize that you're struggling, that's huge. Give yourself like a pat on the back because you're recognizing your own struggles and what you're lacking. And two, if you can literally go ask someone or go to someone and say, hey, oh boy, am I like what right now? Please help me. That got to give yourself a lot of grace and applause for being able to do that. Did I freeze?
Yeah, in the most of
course I came back.
Positions, like ah! It was I wish I had taken it, like thought to take a screenshot right there because it was like the best and most dramatic way that you could have frozen in.
Oh boy. Well, hopefully you can still hear me at least.
Yeah, I could hear you all the way through it. You just looked really dramatic doing it. It was awesome, actually. Rebecca says, I love that. It's the best I have right now. I'm going to keep that with me. Yes, it's a great quote. Damien, when you want to give up, be it from imposter syndrome or otherwise, how do you motivate yourself to keep going? When is it time to walk away from a work?
I would say you have to ask yourself that question. I don't know you, so I don't know when when it's a good time for you to walk away from yourself. I know for me, sometimes you really have to sit down and ask yourself this and like kind of like a meditative kind of way, like who am I? What do I want? And what do I need? And then like what does that mean for yourself? And it's a very raw, very emotional thing because you have to be open and honest with yourself. You have to face yourself. But if you do the work to do that, then you can start to know. For me, I can tell when I'm starting to spiral. And if it gets to be too much, I got to be like, oh, okay, all right. What do I need right now? I got to not do this. And then I'll just leave. Or maybe it's I need to change my music. Or maybe I need to, as I've gotten older, I've become an emotional eeater. So I'm like, it's pizza night, bro. You got to buy yourself a pie because you got to eat your feelings or something. And that's how I've learned to like pick myself up or like give myself a like, you got to go over there, me. Okay. Like, let's just forget about this today. And that's how I did that. So like, how do I know when it's good for you? I don't know. And Naomi doesn't know. You have to kind of soul search a little bit, be honest with yourself and kind of figure out your own tells so that, because like, even if you rely on a friend to help you, your friend isn't always going to be there and isn't always available. So you have to, at some point, learn how to be with yourself, how to take care of yourself. And at sometimes, how to theoretically, verbally punch yourself in the head and get your head back on straight.
Like that you did not say physically.
Just verbally, metaphorically, punch yourself in the head.
Perfect. I know that for me, and this is not, like you said, only you can really make the decision for yourself. I know that for me, if I am really struggling and I want to quit because of a negative thing, whether that be imposter syndrome, or how busy I am, or anything negative, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling lost, imposter syndrome, all of that, feeling like I'm failing at it, whatever the case may be, that is where I tell myself I cannot make this decision here. I have to, like, if I'm going to make a decision that affects my future, whether that be whether or not I should publish this book or continue authoring or continue coaching or whatever the case may be, But if it's something that's going to affect my future, I can only make that decision when I'm in my happy place. And so I will take a break, and then I will do whatever it takes. Hang out with my kids, eat popcorn and pizza, and watch Star Wars, or, or whatever else it takes, happy, upbeat music for days, anything to get my mindset back into I am in a good mood. I am feeling back to my regular self, back to a point where I feel like now I can make decisions. Okay, what do I actually want? So that's where and usually when I'm in that happy place, I can at least be more objective about what I'm doing, because I can recognize like when I'm in fear or not, but not usually when I'm in the thick of it. Like it's really hard for me to see any kind of light when I'm in the thick of it.
It's
Raddick
hard.
says I need to screenshot the face. There you go. There's a chance. All right.
That reminded me of being at my signing event where people wanted to take pictures. But when I take pictures, it's like, if this is my phone, I'm always like, oh, you can't really see, but I'm always like got to put up the deuces. And it's like a reference to a video game where a character takes pictures, and he always does that kind of stuff. And I thought it was so funny that I'm like, I'm going to do that for all my pictures. But then I'm at like author events and signing books, and people want to take pictures. And I'm like, well, I guess I probably shouldn't do that.
All right. So we are do this. Okay. We're getting ready to, like I said, we announced at the beginning of this that we were going to give away a free signed copy of Atticus, which is now out on Amazon. If you're watching on Amazon, congratulations, you're entered. All you have to do is comment, and you'll also see on the carousel below the live stream, you'll see the book for Atticus. You're also going to see like a couple of other things that I added, one of which was a LED neckband as a book light. One of the things that I found is, for me, the beginning of the book was because the depression came through, I needed a light. I could not read it in the dark. Like you know what I mean? Like I needed more than just like the little light that I was reading. So, and the book light really helped, because it didn't, like, my kids still climb into bed with me a lot. And so that way I could read without bothering them. So I linked that below too, as well as a couple of other little book lights. And obviously Kindles work great. And also, because now a lot of times when I am reading a book, I will grab my blanket, I will curl up, and I usually sit kind of like crunched up, if that makes sense. Like my legs, my knees
like a
are
mermaid, and
yeah, exactly. And I'm like hunched over like this. Exactly.
That's how I read too.
With this book, I found myself stretching out a little bit more. And I don't know why, but so I got a what I ended up doing is getting one of those I wish I had it, but one of those like soft chairs that like it feels like a hug. You put it on your bed and it's like a big old pillow with the arms that wrap around.
Oh, yeah, I call them sea pillows, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I linked that too, because that made the reading experience so much better for me, having that pillow. And then I also added a coffee mug, because I know, but because coffee, of course. But this one is a ceramic thermos mug, and with a lid on it, because I read in bed. And so besides the book itself, I just wanted to highlight a couple of products that I felt really elevated my reading experience and really let me like enjoy the full experience of this book. So I wanted to add those in. I got some presents for you after the live stream, Charles.
Me?
Radix has some presents for you.
Okay. Radix, you nice guy.
All right, so I am getting ready to do this
Pull a winner.
drawing. Yeah, I'm trying to pull out everyone who left comments. And
Dun 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 dun.
And Kaylee left 2. Someone is just logged in as Amazon customer, so I can't add them. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come back here real quick. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to completely randomize. Here it is. We're going to completely randomize pulling a winner. All right.
Okay.
So what I did was I pulled the names here, and oh wait, that's not right. Hold on. Yeah. I pulled in all the names here for as many comments as I see from them on Amazon.
Whoa, that's hype. Every time you chatted, you got an entry. That's cool.
Yeah. And here we go.
Guys, if you're
Rebecca,
enjoying
I know
the
you
live
said
stream,
that you've already got the book, but you know what? You still could win a signed copy. So I'm throwing you in anyway because we love you, and
you can always give
if
it
you
away.
win-
Give it to a friend.
There you go. Exactly. Give your other copy to the friend and keep the signed copy. All right. So I just want everyone to be able to see the randomness. So everyone is in here for as many comments as I counted from you. And I'm going to randomize this probably a few times, and then we'll just pick whoever comes out on top. I'll keep doing this until you tell me when.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, while we're doing randoms, guys, if you're enjoying the live stream, don't forget to smash that follow button for Naomi Nakashima so you can check all our live streams out on YouTube or Amazon in the future. Okay, stop.
Okay, Rebecca!
Oh!
Oh my God, that's so funny. All right. Rebecca, free signed copy. Here we go. Free signed copy for you. Signed by the author himself. I'm like, presented by? That was dumb. He's not going to show up at your house.
Yeah, I'm not driving to anyone's house.
What? So congratulations. And you know what? Because I am in a mood. So I'm going to buy a copy for whoever's on number 2 here. So I already have a copy as well, but you know what? I'm just going to share my screen again real quick. And
did you buy yours through Amazon?
I did.
Okay, nice.
Absolutely did. Jessica.
Whoop, whoop.
I will buy you. It won't be a signed copy. Not unless you want to forge. I'm more than happy to forge a signature. It won't be good.
Good luck forging my signature. My goodness. Mine's
but I will. So Rebecca, trying to please be sure that you message me, or better yet, go follow Charles on Amazon and then message him with your mailing address so he can get that signed copy out to you. And Jessica, message me and I will purchase your unsigned copy and send it out to you. So 2 books given away. All right. Well, Charles, I cannot thank you enough for being here today. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking. I think that imposter syndrome is such an important topic because it affects so many people. And I really appreciate all of your tips, all of your help, how helpful you've been. I love the book. If you don't have it already, if I haven't already told you, go get it. Even if you get one of the copies with the typos, you know what? I feel like we're going to really get, like, we're making out. You know what I mean? Like, the next wave of people who get this without the typos, they were not going to have the same level of appreciation as we do. So thank you so much. Congrats, Jessica. This was wonderful. Rebecca says this was wonderful. Thank you. Dale says congrats. Radix says congrats. So yes. Thank you so much. Next week, I'm going to be here with Mariah Onkman, and she's the author of The Wedding Dilemma and The Dating Dilemma. And we are going to be talking about authors with dyslexia and writing your book, like not letting dyslexia stop you from writing your book. So be here next week. My kid is insane. I'm sure you can hear him. He is insane. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to everyone who hung out on YouTube and on Amazon. And I will see you later. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.